If you want juicy and tender beef ribs, then keep watching, because I'm going to show you how to do it.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
Cooking beef ribs is not that hard. However, if you want to do it to perfection, then you need to follow these rules. First of all, you need a beautiful piece of beef just like this. This is a grain-fed Black Angus. Now, it doesn't have to be Black Angus, it doesn't have to be grain-fed, but you do want beef that has a lot of intermuscular fat. It's important because when you start cooking the beef, the fat melts down and the beef becomes juicy and tender. If you buy this at your local butcher or at a specialty store, it's all trimmed up and ready to go. We still have the membrane sitting on the back of the beef, which is important because that will protect the beef. It is basically the shield that prevents the beef ribs from drying out. All I need to do now is season the beef ribs. I'm going to use a little bit of PITMASTERX Texas beef seasoning to put on a base layer. And with beef ribs, you want to make sure that you season all sides of the beef rib. That assures that it looks good when it comes off the smoker. Now I'm going to put on a second layer of seasoning, and that is the PITMASTERX beef seasoning. That's going to give it a little bit of color. We don't need too much of either of these because this isn't the biggest cut of beef ribs. Once you have it all seasoned up, you're going to leave it on the board for about 10 to 15 minutes. And that's perfect timing because that's how long it takes to fire up our Napoleon kettle grill. And the first thing that I need to do is create a direct and indirect zone. I'm going to use a couple of bricks like these, and behind those bricks I'm going to load it up with briquettes. On one side I'm going to place a couple of fire starters and light them up. Once lit up, it's time to add a chunk of smoke wood just over the coals like that. That way it ignites real fast. If you're cooking on a grill like the Napoleon grill, you can lower and raise it like that, so you're closer to the fire, but I find it's best to have it at a higher precision. And now the beef ribs can go on with the thickest parts pointing towards the outside of the barbecue, because this is a kettle grill, and that means the air is going to run around through the grill, picking up high speeds. And funnily enough, the highest air speeds is on the outside of the barbecue, so that's where we're going to have the highest temperature on our beef ribs. So now, one last thing, adding smoke flavor. So adding smoke flavor is important with the beef ribs, but keeping your eye on temperature is maybe even more important with beef ribs. It's kind of the thing that decides if your beef ribs are going to be juicy and tender or just overcooked or undercooked. So use a thermometer. I don't care which one you use, just pick up one, use a thermometer. I'm going to close the lid, and then I'm going to set the top vent to all the way open and the bottom vent to the first position. Now I'm going to let the barbecue come up to a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, which is around 240 degrees Fahrenheit. The beef ribs have been smoking for 2.5 hours and the smoke wood is now burned up. And look at how it already looks. The color is amazing. Now the temperature went a little higher than it intended. I set it up for 120, we reached over, it became 140, but I let it run. And I'm happy with the way the color looks. Now, when is it important to keep your temperature at 120, and when is it allowed to let it go a little higher, like 140? If you have beef ribs with good intermuscular fat, you can let the temperature come up a little bit more, and it will even help render down the fat. But if you have very lean beef ribs, you want to go as low and slow as possible. But in this case, these beef ribs look amazing. And I don't want to add any more smoke wood to it. I've got the color that I'm looking for, and that also means I got the flavor that I'm looking for. So it's time to take these off and wrap them. Of course, I'm going to wrap them up in some butcher's paper. All wrapped up in butcher's paper, ready to go back on the barbecue. Over indirect heat, I'm going to check the coals real quick. I can add a few more coals. Because they are wrapped up now, I can raise up the temperature a little bit. Because there is no reason to do longer cooks than necessary. I'll keep the temperature running at about 140 degrees Celsius, 280 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to take a couple more hours to get these beef ribs to cook properly. But with that time, all of the structure that is in the beef rib is going to disintegrate. And I really need to take it up into higher temperatures inside the beef ribs to break down the fat and the collagen. And that's going to take at least another 3 to 4 hours. So we're just gonna let it run smoothly. And meanwhile, my thermometer is just going to keep an eye on that temperature, make sure that everything runs properly. It actually took another 3.5 hours, but we finally reached the core temperature where the beef ribs, oh, careful, of 92 degrees Celsius. Now, probably it's going to shoot up a little bit more. I'm expecting it to go as high as 94 or maybe even 96, but I definitely don't want to go near 98, because then you might end up with pulled beef. Another way to check is how tender is it? Will it fall through? Just looking for that soft. Oh, that is soft. And now the barbecue part is done, but I need to still keep this warm, and I'm going to do that in my oven. I'm just going to place it in the oven at a temperature of around 60 degrees Celsius, around 120 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to leave it there for 2 hours, just so it can rest and all of the fat can render out a little bit more and become even more tasty. I don't think you're ready for this. Let's just take these out of the package. Ooh! Now sadly the paper ripped, and that's basically the downside. The thing that I don't like about butcher paper is the fact that it's not as strong as aluminum foil. Even though it outperforms aluminum foil bark-wise, otherwise I would have a lot more juices to drop onto my beef ribs. As you can see, it's a bit cold outside, and all the beef fat instantly turned into candle wax. Let's take a look inside. Oh, it is so soft. I really got to be careful not to. Whoa. That is one good looking beef rib. Looks really, really tasty. But the only way to find out if it tastes as good as it looks is to bite into it. Oh yeah. So if you want to make beef ribs on the kettle grill, now you know how to do it. It's not too hard. You can do it. You just have to take some things in mind to get it right and to have it taste really good. I would love to hear from you in the comments what your favorite way to cook beef ribs are and how you perfect it to get it exactly right. So if you feel up to it, write it down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.